So what we're looking at today is we're going to look at the musculature of the upper limb, specifically the shoulder, arm, and forearm. So when you look at this model, when you're doing your test, you can see here, this is not 100% anatomic position. This is more of a handshaking position. So what you have to do is you have to externally rotate the hand a little bit to actually get into anatomic position itself. So first we're going to start with the shoulder. Okay, we can see this guy here. This is our deltoid, the number 10. Okay, remember the deltoid has 3 heads. This doesn't show it very well, but it has posterior, it has a lateral, and it has an anterior. The anterior deltoid flexes the arm, lateral deltoid abducts the arm, posterior deltoid extends the arm itself. Now what we want to look at is we want to look at these guys. Okay, these are the rotator cuff muscles, except for number 3. This is teres major. This is not part of the rotator cuff. Remember what I said? The rotator cuff actually has to insert into one of the either the greater or lesser tubercle. So this is teres major, not part of the rotator cuff, but we have 3 muscles, 1, 2, and this guy right here. This is supraspinatus, infraspinatus, and teres minor. So supraspinatus, you can see here, it originates on the medial border. This is the medial border of the scapula and attaches into the humerus. Okay. Infraspinatus attaches to the medial border of the scapula, attaches to the humerus. And then teres minor, again, medial border of the scapula, attaches to the humerus. Take the deltoid off, we can see this better. There we go. So now, what you want to do is you want to be able to determine what do these muscles actually do. So this muscle here, supraspinatus, it can contract in a straight line. This way. It's going to contract like this. The scapula doesn't move. Okay? These rotator cuff muscles, they cannot contract the scapula. They can only move the bone across the joint. This is the glenohumeral joint, okay? Humerus and the glenoid cavity, glenohumeral. So when this supraspinatus contracts, what it's going to do is it's going to pull the humerus in this direction, That is called abduction. And if you feel your supraspinatus, it does the first 30 degrees of abduction of the arm. Then we have infraspinatus right here, this muscle, this large muscle. So if you look at the way that the infraspinatus is situated on the humerus itself, what it's going to do is actually going to rotate the arm just like this. Okay. So if we have this pen right here, it's going to rotate it. So when it contracts, it's going to rotate. What that is called external rotation. So infraspinatus is going to do an external rotation. If you look at teres minor, it runs in the same directions pretty much that infraspinatus does, so when it contracts, it too is going to externally rotate the arm. So those are 3 of the sits muscles: supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, so capital S, big I, little t, sit. Now I have to have the other S muscle, and to do that we have to flip. The arm over, and then we got this guy right here. Subscapularis. So again, he attaches to the medial border of the scapula, so he doesn't move the scapula, but he also attaches to the inside of the humerus itself. So one thing about these skeletal muscles is you have one muscle doing something, you have to have another muscle that does its opposite. So we have an abduction, we have external rotation from these guys. So here, he attaches to the opposite part of the humerus, so when subscapularis contracts in this direction, he is actually going to internally rotate the arm. So he is going to counterbalance the actions of infraspinatus and teres minor. And then we have Latissimus Dorsi, and what that is going to counteract the actions of supraspinatus. Okay, so those are the rotator cuff muscles: supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, subscapularis. Okay, teres major sits close to the rotator cuff muscles, but he's like the odd man out. He's the guy that nobody wants to play with. Not a rotator cuff muscle because he does not attach to one of the tubercles. Okay. Now, let's go back to the anterior compartment of the arm. Moving on. So we have this guy right here. Everybody knows and loves this. This is the Biceps Brachii. The Biceps Brachii. It was one time called the supinator. So what it does, anterior compartment muscle, it flexes the forearm. It flexes the forearm. However, what I want you to do is I want you to look at this. Follow this all the way up. It's got two heads. We have two heads here. We have a long head and we have a short head. And it crosses. It crosses two joints. It crosses the glenohumeral joint. So a muscle will contract a bone if it crosses the joint. So since it crosses the glenohumeral joint, it will move this bone, the humerus, and it also crosses the elbow joint, so it will move this bone over here. So when the biceps contracts, it will actually flex the arm, flex the entire arm, the glenohumeral joint, and it will flex the forearm. So it is a double flexor. Double flexor. Another thing that it also does, since it attaches to the radius itself, it will cause supination. It will supinate. So supination, remember, is the action of making your arm and moving it upwards. This is pronation. This is supination. Pronation, supination. That is the job of the biceps brachii itself. So if we take the biceps brachii off, well, actually, I'm not going to take it off yet. Underneath the biceps brachii, we have the brachialis. The brachialis. This is a pure flexor of the arm. And in fact, if you flex your arm in with your hand in a pronated position, you're actually feeling the brachialis. Then if you flex your arm and you supinate your hand, you are feeling more of the biceps itself. So biceps brachii, brachialis. So if you remove the biceps, this is what we got. We got brachialis right here. Now moving down to the, actually, we're not going to move down. We're just going to rotate the arm. Posterior compartment. Here's the posterior compartment of the arm. We have this little tiny muscle. This little tiny muscle right up here. This is the triceps. The triceps. And so since it is a posterior compartment muscle, it does extension. So if you look at it, it attaches down here, attaches to the olecranon. So when it contracts, it's going to pull the arm straight. So we have opposing motions here. Biceps and brachialis, they will flex the arm. They will move the arm in this direction. They will move the arm like this. And then triceps, when he contracts, it will move the arm straight. Move the arm straight, so it will extend it. Now moving on down to the forearm, we have a couple muscles you got to know here. Okay, you have this guy right here. You see this? This is the brachioradialis. The brachioradialis. Okay, this is lateral. It's on the lateral forearm, and then we have this guy right here, number 22. This is called Pronator Teres. Pronator Teres. So we have the supinator, which is going to supinate the hand. So the biceps brachii, called supinator, will supinate the hand. We got to have the opposite. This guy right here, Pronator Teres. So this is going to supinate. This is going to pronate. The brachioradialis, what that's going to do, this is a flexor. This is an arm flexor as well. Because look at here, it originates on the humerus and attaches to the forearm. So it's going to cross this joint and it's going to cause a flexion. The other muscle you have to know, so here's Pronator Teres. Don't really need to know this. This is a Flexor Wad. This one right here, 24, you follow this all the way down. This model is kind of terrible on this. It doesn't actually show the tendon as it goes. But this one right here, this is called palmaris longus. Palmaris longus, number 24 right here. So it goes all the way to the palm. So when this contracts, what it does is it causes your hand to flex forward. Okay? So it will cause the joint to move in this direction. Palmaris longus. Okay, so the last thing you need to worry about and need to understand is what's called the flexor wad muscles and the extensor wad muscles. So the flexor wad muscles is this group of muscles that comes off of the medial epicondyle. The extensor wad group of muscles is this one that comes off the lateral epicondyle. So I'm not going to like tag this and say, what is this? Just know that the flexors are medial, off the medial epicondyle themselves, and the extensors are off the lateral epicondyle itself. And these muscles here, all of these muscles, except for palmaris longus, so these deeper muscles, they control the fingers. They control the fingers themselves. So the flexors, which are on the forearm, the front of the forearm, they control the movement of finger flexion. And the extensors, these guys up here, these extensor wad muscles, they control finger extension. So all of the fine movements of your hand are actually controlled by the muscles in the forearm themselves. Okay, I think that is it for the muscles of the upper limb. If you have any questions, just let me know, guys.